Hello YouTube, it's your host MVP and welcome to MVP Magazine. And today I present the first episode of my new show, MVP on Movies. Now, ever since Marvel was able to turn its very popular line of comics into an even more popular and successful line of film franchises, people often wondered what would be the future and fate of DC if they tried the same thing. Now, this doesn't exactly mean that there hasn't been successful movies based on a DC Comics brand. The early 2000s series Batman proved hugely popular and reinvigorated the character when he was kind of going through a mid-series lull. And even the early 90s version was popular and very successful and highly critically acclaimed. As long as we forget that one. You know which one I'm talking about. But since then, DC have struggled to establish a cinematic universe featuring all of its characters whilst making it successful and managing to please the critics. Now, because of these factors, every single DC branded movie that gets released is hailed as the next big one, the one that will finally set it on course to be in tow and as successful as the Marvel franchise. And to be honest, that puts a horrible amount of pressure on any movie just to be judged on its own merit. Now, yes, I do understand that this is a very long-winded intro for what is supposed to be a Wonder Woman movie review. But by the end of it, hopefully you'll understand where exactly I'm coming from. The story loosely centers on Diana, aka Wonder Woman, as she's raised on the island paradise of Themyscira. Diana is the princess and future leader of a rather racially ambiguous group of Amazons who train to fight and protect our world from evil, even though they never leave their island paradise. But, as to be expected, where there's paradise, there is trouble. Trouble soon abounds for Diana when an American spy followed by Nazi troops crash lands on her paradise island. After a lengthy battle, Diana and her group of female Amazons learn of the chaos and suffering being spread in the events of World War II, and they feel compelled to help. Thus begins the journey of Diana as she becomes Wonder Woman and Steve the American spy as they travel Greater Europe to assemble a team of ragtag heroes to take down the war, or something. Now, the overall theme and tone of the plot is that of a Fisher of Water meets a coming-of-age story, in which, as per usual, the main character is just unusually obsessed to possess the knowledge that they've been forbidden their whole entire life. Now, storytelling tropes being reused and retold in cinema isn't exactly a new thing, and it can be forgiven as long as they're done with consistency or some form of originality. And unfortunately for this movie, it kind of fails at doing both. On her island of Themyscira, Diana acquired complete knowledge of Earth's cultures and languages, making her a complete intellectual badass. That is until the scene you find out she doesn't know how to use a door. Or quote, other hilarious hijinks like her having her weapons drawn in civilian quarters while she's supposed to be undercover. And as far as character development goes, it really makes it hard to take Wonder Woman seriously, even though there are some very good attempts at comedy and certain characters are introduced into the script simply for comic relief. Let's just call it that. The overall tone of the film takes itself way too seriously, and because of that, it draws more attention to the small idiosyncrasies and inconsistency of the script and plot at large. I mean, for real, there are certain characters whose deaths are foreshadowed so hard that their script should have come with a sundial. It was insane. Now, whilst this definitely is a spoiler-free review, I will divulge that the finale and ending of this film, it kind of rests on a twist that you definitely won't see coming or actually care about because because you're just not invested in the cast as a whole. Let's just leave it like that. Aries, he's crap. Newcomer Gal Gadot gives a very valiant effort in her role as Diana, which surprisingly still leads to a stoically uncharismatic performance overall. It seems our friend Miss Gadot went to the same acting school as Megan Fox, because a good 75% of her scenes in this movie are comprised of overacting and reaction shots. Gal did take a short break from posing, however, to deliver some very uninspired lines in an accent so monotone I thought she was speaking through the busted speaker of an original Game Boy. Chris Pine definitely brought his A game to the set and some life to some pretty plain dialogue. At times, I wasn't sure who was the co-star or not, him or Miss Gadot. But I'm not gonna lie, they had some brilliant on-screen chemistry together. And this natural chemistry is what carries the film overall when there's no action set pieces or any comedy bits going on. Now, when I began the story segment, I mentioned that it loosely centers on Diana. Gal Gadot is so outclassed as an actor by her stage mates, she begins to feel like a supporting member of the cast in her own film. The action itself will be very hit or miss for some, as it's kind of formulaic and it's full of all the tropes that are made fun of in the Deadpool movie, from the overly moody backgrounds to the superhero pause when she's landing. With main characters that lack motivation, an average script at best, and the lead actress without the charisma to pull off her character, and you now have the recipe for your textbook forgettable Hollywood experience. Now, this movie has been hailed as the second coming and the overall savior of the DC cinematic universe. And I'm not sure. Because of its overall lackluster execution, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to maintain or garner a word of mouth that will actually keep people going back to cinemas. The characters aren't as fun or as likable as the ones in Guardians of the Galaxy. The action isn't as good as the Avengers. And hey, Godot isn't as fine as my girl Scarlett Johansson. She's not okay. Now, if this movie wasn't being heralded as the savior of the DC cinematic universe and an instant classic, it'd be a lot more easier to appreciate this movie for what it is, which is a Hollywood blockbuster starring a fledgling actress with a good supporting cast and some decent CGI. And that might be enough for some people to get them into cinemas in this day and age. Now, my rating personally is a low 2 stars out of 5. Godot really did try, and you can see that in the effort she puts forth, but she just falls short due to that monotone acting. The supporting cast was great, but there was just no motivation for the enemies or for just much of what was going on, and the stakes just were not there. Just were not there. Another thing is that this movie is way too long. 2.5 hours, no way. But yes, let me know what you think of the movie. Did you think it was the savior of the DC universe? Leave a comment in the section and all that great stuff. Peace.